Hi, Michelle Ross with Jensen Property Management here to describe your lease to you. First, up in the upper left-hand corner is the date. This is the owner's name. These are the tenants' names, the address of the property. Then it lists all the people that are going to be allowed to live at the property. 1C is going to list any personal property of the owner that would be at the property, such as the refrigerator or washer and dryer if they're included. Next, the term of the lease. This is the date the lease is going to begin, and this is the date the lease is going to end. Number 3A is the rent that's due every month, and rent is due on the 1st. Section 3D lists where do you pay the rent and who do you pay the rent to. Section 4, the security deposit. It's going to list the security deposit and if the security deposit is going to be transferred to the owner or held in my owner's broker's trust account. Then it says that the security deposit shall not be used by tenant in lieu of payment of last month's rent. In other words, the tenant does have to pay the last month's rent. The top of page 2 is really important because it describes the first 30 days, the amount of the rent due, the date it's due, the security deposit, and when that is due. If there is a pet approved, then there would be an additional pet deposit, and when that is due. And then if you don't move in on the 1st of the month, your second month will be prorated, and this will list your prorated rent and when that prorated rent is due. Section 6 is going to be your grace period and late fee. You have a 3-day grace period. Rent is due on the 1st. And if it is past 3 days, there can be a 10% late charge. Number 7 describes where parking is permitted, whether it be on a driveway or in a garage or on the street if permitted by the CC&Rs. Number 8, storage is only allowed inside the residence or the garage. You cannot have boxes or junk piled up out in front of the residence. Number 9 handles the utilities, and if there are any utilities included, it would be listed here. Number 10 lists the condition of the premises, and that will be a separate inspection that is done prior to move-in and will accurately list the condition of the premises at that time. The next page, number 11, lists the maintenance of the property. B is that the tenant shall water the gardening and landscaping and trees. And then C is who is responsible for maintaining the landscaping and trees, whether that be the landlord or the tenant. D would be if there is a pool on the property, who is to maintain that as well. And then if there's personal property of the owners, such as the refrigerator or washer and dryer, 11G states that those personal property items are exempt from warranty. In other words, the owner does not have to fix them. They may choose to fix them if they break, but they're not required to fix them. Number 13 is if there are pets allowed, then there will be a separate pet addendum. Number 15 and 16 have to do with if the property is in a neighborhood that has an HOA, that would be listed there. Number 17 says you're not allowed to do any repairs or make alterations to the property without prior written approval. Number 18 is going to list the number of keys, mailbox keys, garage remotes, pool keys, gate fobs. Any of those things are going to be listed here that you will get at the time of move-in. Number 22 states that you cannot do any subleasing of any of the rooms to the property. If you want to add somebody to the lease, you have to go through the proper channels to get that person approved and added officially to the lease. Upon vacating the premises, we will do the exact same inspection as move in for move out, and note any damage or cleaning that the property needs at that time. Number 29 is really important. It is required that the tenant get proper coverage for renter's insurance to the property. Number 32 is if you need to send the owner or the property manager anything in the mail, this would be the address that you would send those notices to. And then this would be your address where if we need to serve you any notices, where we would serve those notices to. The top of page 6 is just going to be your standard mediation clauses. Number 38B2. The premises is considered a house, so that means the tenants are responsible for pest control if needed. The property does not have any methamphetamine contamination, no bed bug contamination. If you'd like to look up Megan's Law database, then that is your responsibility to do so. And it's not in an environmental hazard zone or a military ordnance zone or a flood zone. Number 41 states that Jensen Property Management is the leasing agent for the landlord. And number 46 lists all the addendums that are attached, but we'll go through those as well. Number 49. If this box is checked, it states that the property is going to be managed by Jensen Property Management. If this box is not checked, then the owner is going to manage the property on their own. Next is the signature page. Tenants, you're going to sign here on the line above your name, date, and put in a valid cell phone number and email address. The owner will sign here, and then I will sign in this box as the agent. The next page is the standard bed bug disclosure, which I'm required to give every tenant in California, and all it is information regarding bed bugs. The next page is the tenant flood hazard disclosure, and if the property is located in a flood hazard zone, then this box is to be checked. If the box is not checked, then your property is not in a flood hazard zone. The next addendum is the rent cap and just cause addendum. This describes the new rent control laws that were passed in California as of January 1st of 2020. And after it describes those, there is a checkbox at the bottom of the second page, which if this box is checked, it states that this property that you're renting is exempt from the new rent control laws. That means that it does not apply. And then the third page is just the signature page that you've been given that addendum. The next addendum is the Fair Housing and Discrimination Advisory Form. And again, it just describes fair housing laws in California. And then you're just going to be signing that you received that document. The next one is the tenant non-agency agreement. This states that I am the agent for the landlord and I am not representing the tenant. If you wish to have your own representative, you may do that as well. Then the next addendum is my first lease addendum. Number 1 states that the property lease is for 1 year, and then after that you can renew if you wish, or the owner may want to renew if they wish. If nobody renews, then the property just goes on a month-to-month basis. Number 2, monies are first applied to late fees, and then outstanding charges, then delinquent rent, and then finally to current rent. Number 3, it's imperative that the tenant report any plumbing problems. If anything is leaking, even if it's the hose bib, please tell me. I will get it fixed. Number 4, if the tenant connects any plumbing appliances such as the refrigerator, water line, or the washing machine, if you install those incorrectly and the property floods, then you are responsible for those damages. If the property floods for any other reason, then the owner is responsible for those damages. It is advised that the tenant does turn off the water to the house if they go away on vacation. So if for some reason the property does flood due to a plumbing leak, it minimizes the damages. Number 5, the tenants are responsible for any unnecessary service calls. So if you call and say you need a repairman, or something's not working, and I send a repairman and that item is working correctly, as designed, and there was really not an issue, then you are responsible for that service call. Tenant agrees to no smoking at all by anybody inside the residence. Number 7, all repairs have to be authorized by the landlord and or Jensen Property Management and should be authorized in writing. Number 8, any repairs that do not affect the habitability of the property are done at the discretion of the landlord. So if it's something minor or cosmetic, the owner does not have to fix that. If it affects the habitability of the property, the owner does have to fix it. Number 9, tenants are not allowed to be on the roof. Number 10, tenants cannot grow any cannabis on the property. And number 11, tenant agrees to not burn real wood in any of the fireplaces if there is a fireplace. Number 12, no business or daycare is to be run out of the residence. You can obviously work from home on your computer, but you cannot run a business with customers coming and going out of the home. Number 13, tenants agree to abide by any CC&Rs in the neighborhood. Number 14, the landlord reserves the right to inspect the condition of the interior of the premises, but we have to give you a 24-hour verbal or written notice. We cannot just show up at your door and expect you to let us in. Number 15, because it is a home again, tenants are responsible for any pest control except termites. If it's termites, the owner does have to take care of that. Number 16, any carpets on the property have been professionally cleaned, and when a tenant moves out, they have to use one of our pre-approved carpet cleaners to get the tenants professionally cleaned at move out. If you choose not to do so, that's fine. We can do it and just deduct it from the security deposit. That's not a problem. Number 17, any late fees or bounced check charges are deemed additional rent. Number 18, the tenant will hold the landlord and Jensen Property Management harmless of any accidents on the property. So if somebody trips and falls and breaks their arm in the driveway, we're not responsible for those medical bills. And number 19, very important, tenant agrees to pay for all legal fees incurred while attempting to collect rent or evict. If I have to evict a tenant, I do pay for the attorney and court cost out of the security deposit. The next addendum is the breach of contract addendum. If you, the tenant, have to break the contract for any reason, please let me know as soon as possible. Give me as much notice so I can get the property re-rented as quickly as possible. Because in California, as soon as a new tenant moves in, the past tenant is released from all liability regarding that lease. So it's very important that you communicate that with me so I can get a new tenant in as soon as possible to reduce your liability. The next addendum is the mold addendum. It states that the property is free of mold to our knowledge and that you'll do your best of care to make sure it stays that way, mainly by reporting plumbing leaks. Second, proper ventilation. If the kitchen gets steamed up, open a window, turn on the fan over the stove. Same with the bathrooms. If they get steamed up from a shower, turn on the fan, crack a window, just basic common sense. The next addendum is the crime-free lease addendum. This states that the property, you cannot do any criminal activity on the property. No gang activity, no drug dealing, no shooting off illegal firearms, and no prostitution. And then the last addendum is the insurance addendum, and it's going to describe to your insurance agent the requirements of the renter's policy that has to be obtained. Feel free to watch this video again. If anybody has any questions, feel free to reach out to me, Michelle Ross with Jensen Property Management, 951-323-2323. Thank you and have a great day.